Hello everybody, welcome back to another episode from Whalejaw 3D. Today we're going to explore 3D printing and how to properly build a 3D object. What we first need to discuss is the structure of the model. If we look and go into viewport shading, we can see that we have three different colors, four actually, showcasing the different layers that we have. This can be found up here. If we drop it down and click on view layer, we can see we have these four layers, can't we? Yeah. Now for 3D printing, we need the object to be a manifold object. Now that means that this is all one object. So what we can do is select one of the objects, which is our chin, and then we can press shift and select the rest of the objects. And what we can do is we could just press Control and J, and that would merge it all together. But as we can see, it's broken the model. What's happened here is if we press undo, it's copied the traits of whichever layer it's going to consolidate to, which is our tongue. So if we did it again, but press shift and select, say like the head, that we know that that's like our final procedure. And by that I mean like a subdivision of level 3. If we press Control and J again now, we can see that the rest of the model also conforms. So why won't this work when it comes to 3D printing? Basically, if we press tab now and we went in, we can see our model is still in its raw form, as in it's still got a modifier on it. So if we back out and we say hide this modifier, we can see this is like the true shape of our model. We don't want this, do we? The trouble is now, if we say apply this modifier like this, and then we press tab to go into edit mode, we can see that it's applied our subdivision surface. This is good. This is exactly what we want. But if we use the quick tool L to manually select one of the objects, we can still see that the objects are still their own objects, you know what I mean? Like separate from the circle, the face, the chin, you know what I mean? They're not integrated, they're just overlapping. This is okay if you're animating for film, but when it comes to 3D print, it's not ideal. So what do we need to do? First, we ought to put on our toggle X-ray, which is this button here. It's also Alt and Z. I like to use Alt and Z. It's very useful. And if we press X-ray, we can see that the object is like infiltrating the other models by this much, can't we? We need to solve this basically. So if we tab back out, how can we solve this issue? Well, basically, what we need to do is we need to separate all these objects into their own individual layers. So what we need to do now is go press tab again and enter the edit mode. And we need to select all of the same objects, you know what I mean? Say like there's two. So if we press L, we know we've got the horn bases now, don't we? So when we press P for separate, we can separate them by selection by clicking this one here. And as you can see up here as well, it's separated the selections. So now I can click on that one and you can tell the difference with the colors. Look, this is why it's handy to have this color mode on the shader. I like to have it on random, which is here. You can have matte cap if you want. You can have flat if you want. Let's have matte cap for a change. I haven't changed it in a while. And we need to repeat that process now across the rest of this model so that it's all their own individual layers. I'll quickly do that now. So just to recap, you press L on anything mirrored, press P, separate the selection, and you got yourself a new layer. It's that simple. So let me quickly do that. And as we can see, the last thing in this layer is the tongue. So we'll leave that. Yeah. So if we back out now, I'll click on the tongue just to make sure it is its own layer, and click on everything, just check it over. Yeah, we can see we've got a separated model now. This is ideal. So the next step in making this a manifold object is deleting all the geometry that we don't need on the inside. How do you do that in Blender? Well, it's called a Boolean. If we go to the chin and we click on generate, we can find the modifier called Boolean. Boolean, 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 Boolean. I love Booleans. So what is a Boolean? I've decided to set up a little example to show you. So if we click this object here and then we go over to our modifier tab, you'll notice we have something called a Boolean. What this Boolean can do is magical. What you can do with this now is select another object that will interact with your chosen object. So if we select this object here, and it shows up in here, what we can say, the difference with this will get chopped out of that, yeah? So if we now click on this one and press G, and move it over here like this, and then we also hide it, we can see it's took a chunk out, yeah? So that's what difference is. It's awesome. I've also got something, an add-on called the Booltron. This speeds up the process no end, and I like these little icons here because it helps you remember which one's which, yeah? And it's amazing. All you've got to do once you've done this is obviously press apply on the modifier, and then if you go inside, you've got yourself a perfectly sculpted thing. The thing with Booleans to remember is, obviously this is not perfect geometry, but for 3D printing, it's fine, yeah? As long as you're happy with the resolution that you operate the Boolean at, yeah? This will probably leave all these little square lines when printing, but it's an example. So with that principle, what does a union do? If we go back to stage 1, and we start again, we select our object, but this time, we'd like a union, yeah? So we click on this one. We've already got our object selected, haven't we? So I'll just do it to show you. We select the object we want, and it's that one, yeah? Now, as you can see, they both turned yellow, because a union is basically like adding them both together, putting the butter in your flour, yeah? If you were making a cake. So if we now select sphere 1, we can basically press G, and we can push it into that one, like so, like this, can't we? And then if we hide it, you can see that this object is now one object. So if we press apply again, and then we go into edit mode, you can see we've now got an object that if we press see through, has no middle, yeah? That's a manifold object. We need to achieve this now with all these objects on our skull, yeah? That makes sense? Let's delete those. So what we need to do now is select the core, I would say, and we need to add to this. So I'm going to do it the old-fashioned way. You can use the add-ons, but unless you know how to do it from like the raw core way of doing it, there's no point in using add-ons in my opinion. So if we select union, and we select our first object, which is probably going to be those bits there, isn't it? As you can see, we've got some shading issues. So the next thing that we should probably check is the face orientation on our model. Now, what is a face orientation? It's basically, if we say go in here, a face is one of these. That's a face. That's facing outside, and the other side, if we can go in, is facing on the inside, yeah? So how can we tell which way they are facing? It's quite simple. If we go to this drop down here and you viewport overlays, we can come down to something called the face orientation. You've probably seen it. And as we can see, we've got errors. This red horn here is facing the wrong direction. So what we need to do is go into the edit mode and select everything and press Shift and N. And that will flip the entire model's faces so that they're now blue. If you need more control than that, you can basically, again, select them all, but this time press Alt and N, and you'll get extra options where you can like recalculate the outside or the inside or flip, yeah? And there's your shortcuts to help them, yeah? So if we back out now, and we try to Boolean all these together, we may find that we get shading issues. The reason why we're getting shading issues is because of this. We're using something called the shade smooth, and it's an artificial thing, shall we say. What we need to do is shade it flat, because we're working in like raw data for our 3D print, yeah? And when you put it in raw, you can see these like highlighted wireframes. If you want to see them more, you can change them around here. So what we need to do is select everything and make sure it's shaded flat, yeah? So now, when we select the middle bit, we can go in and do our Booleans. So if we click Boolean, and then click on Union, and if we click the object that we want to join, like these horns, we can now see that the yellow line is consuming these two objects. We're getting a bit of shading issue now, because we've also got that layer turned on, haven't we? So if I click this one, that one there, it's round cube 1. So what we need to do now is remove this from our selection list, don't we? So if we turn it off completely, we can see we've got no more shading issues. And also that object has now become the same color as everything because it's now a part of this object, yeah? So the next issue that you might come across when doing this, I'm going to show you now because I've done this before, is this. What we need to do now is apply that Boolean ready for the next one. So if we press fresh Boolean, we click on union and we select this time. If we now go in and we press / so that we can separate the model, we can see this, yeah? If we press transparent mode and look inside the model, we can see, can you see that this object here that shouldn't be inside, you know what I mean? If we go inside and then press transparent off, can you see that little cylinder of floating geometry that we don't want this? What we need to do is press L, select it, and then press X to delete and delete the vertices. That will cause a nightmare for your 3D printing software. Always be aware of that, you know what I mean? If we press L on this one and delete that one, delete the vertices, we can see that on the inside we have got like a lovely perfect geometry now. So yeah, always be aware of that. You have to check your models at the end. I thought I'd show you. So if we press / and come back to this mode, you can get the gist of what I need to do now, don't you? So I need to add everything else to the model via a Boolean. So if we put union on again and select round cube number 5 comes part of it, and then we turn off round cube number 5 and then apply that Boolean. There probably is quicker ways of doing this, trying to do them all at once, but what I'm trying to do is save your computer as well. Take your time as you're doing it, you know what I mean? So after all that work, if we press tab now and go into it, you can see we've got a lovely uniform model. If we press all and just turn off that mean crease there because we don't need it, you can see it's perfect. It's all intersected. Let me try and get inside it. There we go. You can see everything's lovely on the inside. This is how we want it for 3D printing, don't we? When we 3D print this now, it will say you've optimized how much resin you're going to use. There's no like chunky bits or anything, you know what I mean? It's perfect. So now we've completed the Booleans, we need to export this model. You might be familiar with exporting, but I'll show you anyway. It's basically as simple as clicking on export and then STL. I like to click selection only because there might be more than one thing in it, you know what I mean? I like to keep the scale the same, click the folder you want, and then just press export STL. After this, everything is simple. You just need to open your app, click on your thing, and there you go. One head ready for 3D printing. All you got to do if you want to make it hollow is find the button in your program to hollow it. I like to have a 3mm shell, but 2, I think I've printed it in 2 and it was absolutely solid, you know what I mean? So 2's fine. Generate, I'm not going to go too in depth on this, it's a Blender episode, isn't it? So, but there you go, look, hollow object. If we go halfway down it, you can see you've got a lovely, absolutely perfect uniform skin, rather than an absolute mess of like objects intersecting each other and becoming issues. This is how you make a manifold object. I hoped you liked this. I thought I'd make a video on it because I've been making messy 3D prints for a while now, and it's like I finally cracked the perfect method. I thought I'd show you. Yeah, if you enjoyed this video or you learned anything from it, press the like button, subscribe. I'll make more videos. If there's anything in particular you would like to see, comment below and I'll try and make a video on it, you know what I mean? Thanks for watching. See you soon. Bye.